So during the New Deal, we're also going to see a rise in the activity of labor unions, and we're going to see a lot of support for labor unions from FDR. Actually, he was very supportive of unions. For example, he's going to help pass and sign the Wagner Act, which said that all workers have the right to join a union. Before the Wagner Act, a company could discriminate against a potential employee and not hire them, or put in their contract that if they were hired, they weren't legally allowed to join a labor union. But under the Wagner Act, you can't do that. It also gives collective bargaining rights to labor unions, which is important. He'll also pass the Fair Labor Standards Act in 1938, which finally outlaws child labor and increases wages of a lot of industrial workers. And then we're going to see the formation of the Congress of Industrial Organizations, also known as the CIO. So the CIO is sort of like a union of unions. It's like a mega union, a really freaking big union. And it will eventually merge with the AFL, the American Federation of Labor, to be sort of an even bigger national union. So FDR is making all this progress, and he's doing all these things, but he's going to hit a pretty big speed bump from the Supreme Court. So the court case Schechter Poultry v. United States brought into question who has the power to regulate interstate commerce. Now, if you remember all the way back to the Articles of Confederation, we said that no one had the power to regulate interstate commerce, and it was causing a lot of economic and political problems. So as soon as we wrote the Constitution, we gave that power to one of the three branches of government, and it was the legislative branch. So Congress is the only entity with the power to regulate interstate commerce, meaning that the president can't do it. And that's essentially what the case Schechter Poultry v. United States says, is that the president can't regulate interstate commerce. Now, that's a problem because FDR's program, the NRA, the National Recovery Administration, they do regulate interstate commerce in sort of a roundabout way. Sorry, the National Recovery Administration. So they do regulate commerce. So we're essentially saying that the NRA is illegal. And now people freaked out because they were like, does this mean that all of his programs are going to be found unconstitutional? So FDR tries to hit back by saying he's going to pack the Supreme Court with 6 brand new judges, because it's the president's job to appoint Supreme Court judges. And if he adds 6 new judgeship positions, he'll get to add all of the judges, and he can just add a bunch of people that will do whatever he wants. And so the Supreme Court hits back by saying that if he does that, they will just vote no, or they'll declare everything he's ever done unconstitutional, pretty much. So he calms down a little when they say that, and he backtracks, and he's going to be a lot more open to working with the Supreme Court by that time. But nevertheless, the tension will sort of remain there for a little while. So overall, the biggest effect of the New Deal is going to be the role of the government expanding. We will see the power of the president, as well as the power of the federal government, grow to where it has never been larger before from out of the New Deal and from FDR. But with that also comes the largest amount of people we've ever seen be dependent on the United States government. We're seeing a lot of we're really seeing the growth of the welfare state. Like you see this political cartoon down here. It says, "Welcome to the world's largest welfare state. Free food, free healthcare, free education, and free housing." And we do offer those things. And we've got way more people relying on the government for support today than ever originally planned, and a lot of that comes from an idea that stems out of the New Deal, which is that not only is the government capable of helping every American citizen and supporting them, but that they should be helping and supporting every American citizen. We're also going to see minorities getting a lot more involved in the government. For example, Eleanor Roosevelt, right? We're going to see her getting it done for the ladies. We're going to see a New Deal solely devised to help Native Americans called the Indian New Deal. And we're also going to see the creation of a group called the Black Cabinet, which was an all African American sort of fake cabinet that FDR had, and he would use them to advise him on civil rights issues, which was very important. We're also going to see the development of a new voting group called the New Deal Coalition, a group of people who are really sort of at the bottom of the economic ladder, the people who are the most helped by New Deal programs will be steady voters for FDR for quite some time. Not necessarily for one party or the other, but they were initially just sort of like FDR followers. And we do see some pretty big, like cultural things and like pop culture things out of the 1930s. We've got movie and radio bigger than it ever has been. Movies like Snow White, Gone with the Wind, books like War of the Worlds, which was read over the radio, and people really thought that aliens were actually attacking. Books like The Grapes of Wrath, which is about a Dust Bowl family. We're seeing the beginning of a new arts movement, as well as the swing era beginning in the 1930s. So not everything was all depression and tragedy, but a lot of this will take a back seat when at the end of the 1930s, and that's because the war in Europe really will begin by 1936, 1938, and we're going to be distracted by a lot of that once again. So all of these other things are really going to take a back seat. Now, does the New Deal get us out of the Great Depression? No, it doesn't. And largely that's because something else comes along that gets us out of the Great Depression, which is World War II. And we'll never know for sure if the New Deal would have ever gotten us out of the Great Depression, but we can feel fairly confident that it would not have, because there were multiple times during the 1930s when FDR would pull back the New Deal a little bit, and in the hopes that his Band-Aid had, healed us in some capacities, but then we would immediately see the problem once again. So the New Deal was not a cure. It was only a treatment. We were just treating the symptoms. We were treating unemployment, and we were treating poverty and things like that. We were just treating the symptoms, and we weren't actually curing the overall problem, which was this global depression, and that won't really be cured until after World War II.